Hello and welcome back to another video. In this video, we're gonna be talking about marketing systems. Now, if you want to make more money from your marketing, you need to optimize around the entire system, not just the funnels itself. Because here's the truth. In order to make more money from your advertising and your marketing, you need something that can convert leads in 30 days and 60 days just as well as you are converting leads today. And the good news is you don't even have to be an expert at marketing to do this effectively. All you need is one leverage point that I call the self-optimizing feedback loop. Sounds complicated, but it's actually very simple. And if you can understand this one concept, I guarantee that you are going to make buku bucks from your marketing as soon as this month. And you will be better than 90% of marketers in the entire world. So in this video, I'm gonna break down the self-optimizing feedback loop and show you exactly how it works, why it works, and give you real life examples that we see every single day from our actual agency clients. By the way, I'm qualified to talk about this because my name is Hunter and I run an advertising agency where all I do every single day is talk about marketing, systems, and scaling companies to $10 million or more per year. And in 2025 alone, our agency generated almost $11 million for our clients. All right, so let's break down how you're probably doing your marketing funnels right now and why this old way of thinking is actually the reason that you aren't getting a return on investment from your ads. So this is what most companies are doing. They build a linear funnel, they send traffic to it, and then hope that it converts that cold traffic into profits. The problem with this method is that you're really only tapping into the 3% of the market that's actually ready to convert right now, which means that there's 97% of your market that isn't even ready to book a call, become a lead, or even attend a webinar. And so for most of you watching this, what that means is if those people don't book, they're gone forever because you have no retargeting and no way to actually go after those people again, and there's no adaptation to your funnel to make sure that you can speak to the other 97% of your market. So here's the problem with the way that that works. It assumes that the buying journey for buyers today is 100% linear, which, spoiler alert, it is not. Because basically what you're doing is you're assuming that the person clicks an ad, watches a short VSL, or attends a webinar, or sees a lead form and decides to fill it out. But what really happens in today's modern era is they're gonna immediately start to become highly skeptical of if you're the right company for them or not. And this does not matter what industry you're in. Whether you're a contractor, an online business, a SaaS company, a coach, a consultant, it does not matter. People are gonna go to Reddit, they're gonna try and find people talking about your company. They're gonna go to Google. They're gonna try and find your company, your website, your reviews. They might go to YouTube, like what you're watching right now, to go and see what this company's actually talking about and do they know their shit. Now, with the old way, all of the things that they find about your company, you're just completely leaving it up to chance. So to make this more clear, think about how you buy from companies. Because I think a lot of times in marketing, we're looking at dashboards, it's hard to really put yourself in the customer's shoes and realize that you're advertising to people. So consider yourself. Last time you bought something from a company, what did you probably do? Well, you probably clicked an ad, you may have gone to their webpage, and before you did anything, you probably went to another tab to go Google the company. Are they legit? Right? You try to find some reviews, something that shows that this company's actually in business and not just, some scam, because there's a lot of that going around. Well, we need to engineer exactly what your prospects consume and see about your company before they book a call. And obviously we need to, this is even more important, after they booked a call or agreed to attend a webinar or become a lead with your company. The question becomes, how do we know what we need to show the prospect, right? Before we talk to them, we won't know, what they want to see. Well, it's actually very easy. And all it requires is a little bit of digging through sales calls that you've taken and objections that leads have given you. Because the goal of this, what we're trying to do is we're trying to get clear on exactly what prospects are saying before they buy from you, right? So go through 50 to 100 sales calls or appointment setting calls or webinar objections, things like that. Go through all of those and start to get clear on the things that prospects are confused about. So generally, these are gonna be, well, how much do you charge? What does your company actually do? How bad could they absolutely get if it doesn't work for them, right? That's something that people care about as well. They want to see, okay, well, not everything is going to work. How bad can this actually go for me? How long do clients stay with you, right? Et cetera, et cetera. All of those questions are going to be specific to your company and will come from the sales data that you already have. Okay, so once you have your list of questions and objections, and generally this is going to be a pretty substantial list, 30 to 50 things that come up on a frequent basis with prospects. Your job now is very easy. All you're going to do is you're going to take that list that you've now created, going through all of your sales calls, appointment setting calls, webinar questions and objections that you've gotten, and you're going to start to create videos specifically handling each one of those questions. So if you have 50 questions, you have 50 pieces of content that you need to create. Now, the biggest objection that I hear from business owners about this is, well, I don't know what to say, right? I don't know how to handle this if I've never talked to them. And that is just such a lame excuse, because at the end of the day, you have already handled these objections with prospects, assuming that you actually have clients, right? If you close deals, you know how to handle these. Just pretend that the camera, right? Like I'm talking to you right now. Pretend that the camera is your prospect, your ideal client. You don't have to script this out. You just have to sit in front of the camera, know what question you're answering, and then answer the question as honestly as you can. So for example, at our agency, one of the biggest things that prospects always bring up to us is that they've been burned 5, 10, 15, 20 times by other agencies. And so the question they always ask is, well, I've been burned before. Why are you any different? And the thing I always tell them is, well, the problem with most agencies is they bring on 50 clients and we don't do that, because when you get to that scale, the company has to shift how they manage those clients. So they'll have junior marketers, they'll have a whole bunch of junior people managing accounts. And usually the senior marketer is just kind of the manager and the overseer of those. But because that senior marketer might be handling 15, 20, 30 or more accounts, they can't actually give the attention that that client needs. So at my agency, Review Media, we only take on 10 clients at a time because I want to be able to go deep with each client and actually get the results for those clients. And so that's how we solve that, right? So that would be an example of a breakout video. Just take what I just said there and just use that as a video, right? So you don't have to get fancy with this, because people honestly care more about transparency than they do about big scripted, beautifully edited, stuff. They just want to know, like, okay, well, how can I get? How long do clients stay with you, right? These are all metrics that you should be able to pull out of your ass anyway. So it's very easy to answer these questions on video. You just have to do it. So at this point, you've created your list, you've created your videos, you've gotten them edited, right, and ready to present in front of prospects. Now your job is to just retarget people. So if they booked a call, that's going to be a separate set of videos, right? Now, obviously, if they booked a call, the questions are going to be more around how much do you charge, how long do clients stay with you, what does the onboarding process look like, stuff like that. If they haven't booked a call and maybe they started filling out the form, which in 2026, you should have attribution softwares that are able to see people filling out forms and not submitting them. So you should be able to retarget those people, right? Just a little game there. I'm not going to tell you how to do that. I'll leave that up to the people who actually pay me to run their ads for them. But then we're going to retarget those people, the people who were on the fence and then something stopped them. We're going to retarget them with these videos, because that's going to start to give them the context, the trust, and the clarity around what your company does. The shift is massive. And the reason that it's so impactful is it's a psychological bias in humans, and it's called the mere exposure effect. And it sounds complicated, it's very easy to understand. The mere exposure effect simply is the more you are exposed as a human to stimuli or things that you are exposed to just on a daily basis, the more you start to find it pleasant. But to make this more clear, you can think of it like acquiring a taste for food. When you try something new, right? Something that maybe you've had some sort of, kind of like standoffish towards a piece of article of food, right? When you first try it, you're probably not going to like it that much. You might enjoy the taste slightly, right? You might not think it's the worst thing in the world, but you're probably not going to be seeking it out. But the more you eat it, the more you start to enjoy the food. Same with music. If you first listen to heavy metal, you're probably going to think that's the worst music I've ever heard. But if you listen to it over and over and over again, you're going to start to find songs that you kind of like. You're going to start to feel like, oh, actually heavy metal has something that I like about it. And you're going to just start to develop an affinity towards that, whether that's right or wrong, right? So a good example of how this is so impactful, when you were growing up, right, and your mom or your father or whoever your guardian was at that point was making you dinner, you likely have an affinity towards the food that they prepared for you on a consistent basis, right? Or if you grew up in a family where that would eat out a lot and you regular to a restaurant, anytime you go back to your hometown, you're gonna seek out that food and it's gonna feel comforting. It's gonna feel like, wow, that's really good. This is exactly what I remember. And that's that mere exposure effect taking hold. In business, when we leverage that effect, what we're doing is we're just exposing our prospect to you and your company over and over and over again, until eventually it feels like you're the only logical choice to go with. So then all those 97% of people that maybe weren't ready slowly start to warm up to you, and they have an affinity. They actually develop an affinity to you, and they're going to become a lead. They're going to book calls, and then when they get to the sales call, they're going to be pretty warm, right? They're gonna be almost ready to hand you their card, and they might just need a few logistics handled from a sales rep. And so that's really the power of this. Now that we have all of that, right? So we have our list, we've made the videos, we're retargeting prospects, we're starting to develop this mere exposure effect. Where does the feedback loop actually come in? Right now, before you run any of this, take a mental picture or have in a spreadsheet the objections and the way that the prospects show up to the call. As you start to retarget prospects and as you start to get sales feedback, just begin to take note of the questions that are shifting in the prospect's mind. So in the beginning, people might have shown up to a sales call and said, well, what do you guys do exactly? I don't even know. Well, hopefully, if you've done your job right, that's not a question they have anymore. Maybe now the question has completely shifted away from what do you do to why are you better than the last company, right? So now they know what you do and they just want to know why. Well, cool. Where the feedback loop comes in. You now take note of that and you make another video handling specifically that. Maybe the question becomes, how long has your company been in business, right? So now they're starting to just try and get more clarity around the company. Okay, cool. You make a video about that, right? So every single time you go through this, the system reinforces, we need these videos, we need these videos, we need these videos. So eventually what will happen is you'll have a library and an asset of hundreds of videos that you've made over the course of a year or 2 years or whatever that you can use to continually warm up leads. And the more those questions start to deviate, the more you start to make those videos and bring it back around, right? Now the goal of this, the reason why I said this is going to make you so much money, you are going to get to a point where prospects are showing up to calls, they're like, yep, I've seen a lot of your content, I know exactly what you do, I know this is right for me, I trust you, I know how long you've been in business, blah, 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 blah. Where do I sign? That's when your marketing becomes very, very profitable. At that point, your sales reps turn into cashiers, and all they need to do is just ask them to sign on the dotted line when the prospect says yes. I hope this video was very helpful. I urge you to click the link in the description and apply to work with my company. Just to be clear, I have withheld about 90% of the information that I can actually give you because I save that for the people who actually pay our agency. Just to be clear, if you're not doing over $1 million a month, don't bother applying. We're probably not going to work with you. We do reserve, since we only work with 10 clients at a time, we can only stand to work with the companies that are already very established. So that's all for this one. Take care.